Good evening and welcome to everyone, councillors, the press and the public, to this ordinary meeting of the Town Council. This meeting will be held under regulations allowing local authorities to meet formally using remote technology. It is being streamed live and is available to view on our website. It is important for everyone participating in this meeting to keep your microphones on mute when you are not speaking, to reduce disruption from background noise. Most of the decisions will be made by general assent of those present. However, if a vote is required, each councillor's name will be read out by me or the Deputy Town Clerk, and you will be asked to state whether you are for, against or abstain. If at any time the Town Council's technology fails and we need to adjourn the meeting for a short period, I will confirm this and ask all those present to turn their cameras off and mute their microphones while the problem is rectified. I will then confirm when the meeting resumes. We can only monitor our technology and cannot halt the meeting if a member of the press or public experiences technology issues. I will now ask the Deputy Town Clerk to carry out a roll call of all councillors and ask you to confirm that you are present. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Councillor Baker. Councillor Blanchard Cooper.
Present.
Councillor Buckland.
Present.
Councillor Chase.
Present.
Councillor Long.
Present.
Councillor North East.
Present.
Councillor Rhodes. Councillor Seeks.
Present.
Councillor Tandy.
Present.
Councillor Turner. Councillor Dr. Walsh.
Present.
Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Item number 1 on the agenda, mobile phones. Members are reminded to switch their mobile devices to silent for the duration of the meeting and asked to note as previously approved protocol for remote meetings, which is in place for the duration of this meeting. Apologies. I will ask the Deputy Town Clerk to read the names of those who have sent their apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we have apologies from councillors Joe Price, Michelle Malloy and Andrea Turner.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item, item number 3, declarations of interest. The standing declarations are noted. Members and officers are reminded to make any other declarations if they become apparent at the appropriate time during the meeting. Are there any further declarations? I'll take that as a no. Item number 4, minutes. The minutes of the meeting held on the 18th of June and 25th of June 2020 have been circulated and can be found on pages 7 to 17. In accordance with the Town Council Standing Orders, Section 9A, members are reminded that no discussion of the draft minutes of a preceding meeting shall take place in relation to their accuracy. Can I therefore ask if everyone is happy to have these approved, and arrangements will be made to formally sign these when circumstances allow, and this will be recorded in the minutes.
Approved, Mr. Mayor. Yeah.
Thank you.
Approved.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Item number 5, Town Mayor's reports and urgent items. Since the last meetings, I've still been able to keep busy supporting local people, local businesses, and yeah, it's been a very interesting 6 months as first 6 months of being mayor, but very satisfying. So that's all good. I will ask to Ask the Assistant Town Clerk to advise if there are any urgent items.
I'm going to hand over to the Assistant Town Clerk because we have one urgent item, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just notification that we have today received from Highways England, who have confirmed that they've been able to announce the preferred route for the A27 Arundel bypass. That's been published today, and we've sent details out to everybody. Information is available on the Highways England website. But the next steps will see Highways England develop their plans and the detailed designs, and we will get a further consultation when that work has been done. This is a prerequisite for the planning consent that will be required to secure the scheme. Progress with the next steps are being monitored, and that's through our Planning and Transportation Committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I just
Yes, please, Dr. Walsh.
May I just welcome that, and I probably ought to declare an interest as a member of both of the District Council and the County Council. The route that the preferred route is chosen is the grey route, if members can cast their minds back to the last time they saw the map. It's the longest route and it doesn't go through any ancient woodland or woodland. It goes fairly close to the settlement of Walberton, but it'll be in a cutting with acoustic fencing. And I hope that we will, as a town council, continue to support that, because it's of vital economic interest to our residents, to our businesses, to our tourism, and to the economic development of the town and the wider district. So there will be a formal opportunity, I'm sure, to deal with it, probably through planning initially, but I certainly welcome that, and I'm delighted that it's been a long time coming. 35 years we've been waiting for this, and I gather it's going to be built starting in 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Walsh. Item number 6, public forum. In accordance.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, Juliet. You go.
Oh, I think Councillor Buckland had a question.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Buckland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just myself, I'd like to declare that I'm a member of West Sussex County Council and also Arran District Council. And as for future discussions on planning and transportation, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to just declare that I'm also a member of the Littlehampton Town Council Planning and Transportation Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buckland. Now have Councillor North East.
Right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, can I just ask James, was it the grey route? Was it the route that we chose at Arran?
It was our second choice, if I remember correctly. We chose the magenta route, which actually did go slightly through, I think, 700 metres of national park and a tiny bit of woodland. And our second choice, if I remember correctly, was the grey route. And the reason the government of the Highways England have chosen it is because it doesn't impinge at all on the South Downs National Park or on any ancient or other woodland.
All right, thank you. Item number 6, public forum. In accordance with remote meetings
Sorry,
protocol.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I think Councillor North East has a question.
No.
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 Okay. Apologies, Mr. Mayor.
Third time lucky. Item number 6, public forum. In accordance with remote meetings protocol, which has been introduced by the Town Council, any members of the public wishing to address the Council or any of its committees during remote meetings should have emailed their submission to us one clear day before the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can confirm there are no submissions.
Thank you very much. Item number 7 on the agenda, correspondence or issues in respect of a district or county council.
I can confirm, Mr. Mayor, there are none.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item, and I will hand over to the Deputy Town Clerk to take us through the report. Item number 8, reports of committees non-exempt. 8.1, recommendations from committee, pages 18 to 20.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if I can take the recommendations from committees one by one. So first of all, we have from the Policy and Finance Committee meeting on the 22nd of September. There was a report setting out the new regulations for public sector websites to meet accessibility standards. Now, that report outlined the results of a review of Littlehampton Town Council's website and actions that were required to ensure that we are compliant. One of these actions is to have a website accessibility statement. And so the recommendation from the Policy and Finance Committee is for Council to approve that website accessibility statement. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. 8.2, committee minutes.
Oh,
I
sorry,
we-
Mr. Mayor.
We have to approve it.
Yes, to approve. There's a list of different approvals from the committees.
So can I
Sorry.
formally move that we approve the one that the Deputy Town Clerk has just outlined?
Thank you, Dr. Walsh.
Okay, I'll
done
take
that.
that as general consensus for yes. Yeah,
Agreed.
thank you. Okay, the next recommendation from the Policy and Finance Committee was regarding a report on a strategy review being undertaken by the Surrey and Sussex Association of Local Councils, and then an internal review that was being undertaken by the West Sussex Association of Local Councils. That internal review could potentially involve WSALC splitting away from SALC. So whilst the Surrey and Sussex review was welcomed, the West Sussex review was unprompted and appeared uncoordinated, and the implications of that review could be far-reaching but wasn't considered a priority for Littlehampton Town Council. So the Policy and Finance Committee are recommending that Council, through the urgent action procedure, in consultation with the Mayor, submit the Town Council's intention to leave on the 31st of March 2021, and that needed to be done in September to give us the 6 months notice, but we reserved the right to withdraw should the situation dictate.
Can I formally move that as well, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Dr. Walsh.
Yes, happy to support that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agreed.
So the next one, again from Policy and Finance Committee, was a report outlining the proposal regarding the tenure of the new centre to replace the Keystone Centre in Wick. And the Policy and Finance Committee have recommended to full council to enter into a full repairing insuring lease with Arran District Council for the footprint of the site of the new youth centre in Eldon Way, Wick, at a peppercorn rent for a period of 50 years.
And if I may, Mr. Mayor, I'll formally move that one and declare my interest as a member of Arran District Council.
Thank you, Dr. Walsh.
Okay.
Happy. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, happy to support that.
Agreed.
Happy to support.
Agreed.
Okay, and then the last one from the Policy and Finance Committee was revised model financial regulations had been received from the National Association for Local Councils, and then work for the Town Council to move towards online payments has resulted in amended financial regulations. There is a change that I would like to draw members' attention to, and that was the need to revert to the previously agreed financial regulations, where we have only one authorised member signatory for electronic payments. And this just enables the process to be completed more efficiently, meaning our suppliers get paid quickly. So the Policy and Finance Committee recommend to Council that the revised financial regulations be approved.
Again, Mr. Mayor, if I'd like to formally move that, and it would be a brave person who would go against the advice of our responsible financial officer.
Absolutely, Councillor Dr. Walsh.
Agreed.
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 Okay. Then I've got two recommendations from the Governance and Audit Committee, which met on the 7th of July 2020. The committee considered a report reviewing the scheme of delegations to committees, and that was up to date and required no changes. The scheme of delegation to officers was revised to reflect changes in the staff structure, but there were no other significant changes. So the Governance and Audit Committee recommend to Council to note the outcome of the review of the scheme of delegation to committees, and then endorse the revised scheme of delegation to officers and recommend to full Council for approval.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yes, agreed.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Okay, so that's it for that item. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. 8.2 committee minutes. Can I now hand over to Councillor Dr. Walsh as Chair of Policy and Finance to present these minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have much pleasure in presenting the minutes of the Policy and Finance Committee held on Tuesday, the 22nd of September, and will be happy to answer any questions.
Can I ask a question, please? I can't seem to find a way to put my hand up. Sorry. I just wondered if we had a price for the augmented reality app that's referenced in there. Is there a budget that the team are working to? I'm just a bit concerned that inventing an app could be costly.
I will refer that question to the Deputy Town Clerk and Responsible Financial Officer. I'm sure we do have a budget for it.
We do indeed have a budget for it. So for this current financial year and the next, there is a total of £50,000 for town centre event budgets, which is also match funded by Arran District Council. But that's not to say all of that is going on the augmented reality app. There are a series of phased events for the town centre events.
Okay, I'm really concerned about the app because I have worked on researching apps for town centres and spoken to lots of big cities across the country about apps, and most of them, even that are developed by, you know, big organisations, often end up sitting unused after a really short amount of time. Swansea did a big app for the whole city and theirs, it wasn't updated and wasn't used. So I would really caution against an app. I don't know how this sort of came into being because it wasn't on the priority list, but I have got concerns about that. So I just wanted that noted.
I'm very grateful to Councillor Seeks for that cautionary tale, and we all know that unless a website is kept up to date, they do fall out of use. So that's the one side of it. Can I assure Councillor Seeks that we'll take that on board? We'll not proceed further with this until we've actually researched it and brought Councillor Seeks into that discussion, since she's got that experience of it.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Lots of shaking of heads, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, yes. So thank you for that, Councillor Dr. Walsh.
Thank you.
And I'll now hand over to Councillor Tandy as Vice Chair of the Community Resources Committee to present these minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to present the minutes of the meetings of the Community Resources Committee held on the 23rd of July and the 10th of September, as set out on pages 30 to 41 in the papers, and would be happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Blanchard Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to, as publicly as I can, just thank Councillor Tandy for stepping in the breach as for chairing the past few meetings of Community Resources. It's normally one that I chair, and obviously those who know me will know what I've gone through recently, so I've not been doing that. And Councillor Tandy has done an excellent job in doing those. I've watched the recordings afterwards, and as always, he does a wonderful job with these. And on occasions, I have to say, I think on the last one, I actually decided not to chair it at a very late stage, and so I would just like to formally thank him for that. So thank you, Freddie.
Thank you. Don't think anyone is feverishly typing. So I will now again hand over to Councillor Tandy as Chair of the Planning and Transportation Committee to present these minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very pleased to present the minutes of the Planning and Transport Committees that were held on the 22nd of June, the 20th of July, the 17th of August, and the 14th of September, as set out on pages 42 to 68, and I will happily answer any questions relating to them.
No, that looks like no questions there, Councillor Tandy, so thank you for that. As Chair of Property and Personnel Committee, I am pleased to present the minutes of the meetings held on the 7th of September 2020, as set out on pages 69 to 73 in these papers, and I would be happy to answer any questions relating to them. Councillor North East.
Thank you, Chairman. It's with regard to item 14, and that's a memorial to the late Tony Squires. There is something else that I've been pursuing. I've got a bit of good news, I hope, and that is that I asked if the new railway bridge on the Lyminster bypass could be named after Tony. I thought it would be a fitting thing to do, being that Tony was a railwayman most of his life. Fantastic. And the fact that he spent a good deal of his life arguing for the Lyminster bypass, so more or less it kills two birds with one stone. But if I can just quickly read you an email that I've received, and that is from West Sussex, and it just says, we don't name bridges in such a fashion, but the structures that comprise the crossing will of course have their formal IDs. And then it went on, equally Network Rail will have its own name and reference for the element over the railway, and will install an ID plate accordingly. Given as much, we'd have no issue with it being named in memory of Tony. If ADC wished to name the bridge and install a plaque, we'd have only a few conditions to comply with, obviously the size of it, where it's going to go, blah blah blah, etc. But all that's left is ADC just to say yes, that will be okay, and provide the plaque. All I was going to say is if for some reason they didn't supply the plaque, that perhaps I could come back to the town council and ask for that to be done. But I just think it would be a real fitting tribute to Tony to have something like this named after him.
Lovely.
Thank you, Chairman.
Mike, thanks very much for that. Does anyone wish to comment?
Please, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, please, Councillor.
I can't give a formal response as leader of Arran District Council here. You wouldn't expect me to, but it'll have my enthusiastic support, and I think it would be a very, very fitting tribute. Great.
Thank you.
Thank
Well
you.
done, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Much appreciated. Right. I'll now hand over to Councillor North East as Chair of the Governance and Audit Committee to present these minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A pleasure in presenting the minutes of the Governance and Audit Committee held on Tuesday, the 7th of July. They're on pages 74 to 77. The recommendations have already been taken, so I'll willingly take any questions on any of the rest of it. As long as they're not too difficult.
You always pass those ones to an officer.
Yeah, that's quite right.
Councillor Buckland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A question to Councillor North East, and he may be or maybe not able to answer it. I'd just like to know, in reference to 7.2, the Code of Conduct for Members, how in depth that the report is going and what is considered, because I actually think that in certain cases that the Code of Conduct for Members is a bit lackluster when it comes to the usage of, say, social media and things like that by verbally attacking other councillors and virtual. And I was just wondering whether this Code of Conduct review is going to take into any kind of consideration in reference to that, even though it is stipulated in codes of conduct, but there's never anything really hard and fast to actually stop it from happening. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Buckland.
I'll respond, Mr. Mayor. As far as I'm aware, the item that you're referring to, it wasn't a review of the Code of Conduct. It was just purely an update within the Code of Conduct. So we haven't reviewed it as such. I don't know whether Laura wants to add anything to that.
I think that the Assistant Town Clerk might want to add something to that, if that's okay, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely.
Oh, Juliet, you're muted.
Forgive me.
Okay.
Just to say that with that particular review, we had already reviewed our own code of conduct and regulations, which have always been considered to be robust. So we didn't feel there was any change required. We do continue to monitor the situation, and I do wonder if members who are also district councillors will be aware that they too are looking at this model and will be looking again at it later on in the year. So we do keep it under constant review, but at this stage, the Code of Conduct itself we consider to be as robust as it possibly could be within the framework of the tiers of local authorities. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Juliet. Councillor Dr. Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to, and I agree with both Councillor Buckland and what else has been said, but the interim monitoring officer, who covers, of course, ourselves as well as Arran District Council, has issued some very robust advice in the last couple of weeks to members of that council. And clearly it is his intention to ensure that social media is not abused by councillors acting in their capacity as a councillor, so that covers a wide spectrum, and I have no doubt that we're just about to shortlist an interview for a full-time monitoring officer for Arran District Council, that new person who will be legally trained will have the same robust response on that. So I can hopefully reassure Councillor Buckland and others that social media abuse by councillors, it doesn't matter which council they're in, an Arran District Council will have a very dim view taken of it by the monitoring officer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dr. Walsh.
Just to say, Chairman, I'm sure that will come up at the next meeting of Governance and Audit.
Yes, Chair, just to say that we have seen that guidance that the District Council has published as their reports. We've got a copy of that and I'll be reviewing it with the Town Clerk when he returns from leave.
Thank you, Juliet. Item number 9 on the agenda, Officers' Reports. Please turn to page 78 in your agenda papers and I will ask the Deputy Town Clerk to take us through these reports. Starting at 9.1, Standing Orders, Urgent Actions, 78 to 82.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So there are 2 urgent actions for Council to note. The first was to waive financial regulations to allow up to 3 test payments to actual suppliers in order for us to test the online banking process and the procedures worked. This was completed successfully and informed the revised financial regulations that Councillor approved earlier in the meeting. The second urgent action was the 6-month notice of intention to leave the West Sussex, Surrey and Sussex and National Association of Local Councils as of the 1st of April 2021, and that has now been completed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. 9.2 is Project 82 building, pages 83 to 85.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this report provides background information on the Project 82 building and the Council's policy to dispose of the building once the new Keystone facility is in place. The report also explains that the Project 82 building is now empty due to changes in how the County Council are delivering their services, and also because the 50 Up Club has had changes as well. And it also provides updates regarding the new youth centre at Eldon Way in Wick, which is progressing well, I'm pleased to say. Following discussions at the Policy and Finance Committee, the report also gives a brief explanation of how town and parish councils can look to provide housing, and that a presentation will be brought before members in the next few months, as that is one of the council's priorities. So the Property and Personnel Committee have therefore recommended to Council that Project 82 Wick Street is declared surplus to requirements, and that authority be delegated to the Town Clerk to engage the District Valuer and take the necessary steps to dispose of the property. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Tandy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'll speak as briefly as I can. I have many reservations about this course of action. I specifically have a problem with the first part of the recommendation, which is to declare that it is surplus to requirements. I have no objection to the second part about finding a valuation. That seems very sensible. But I think to declare it surplus to requirements is a very definitive step in which to make. And from my view, I believe that this building does still have a role to play in Wick. Yes, we have other community facilities. We have Wick Hall, but Wick Hall is a very large place, so it is too big for a lot of groups to wish to meet, although given current circumstances, bigger might be better. And then we have things like the information centre, which is very small and hidden away. And in my view, I think 82 Wick Street has the potential if we manage it well, which I don't think in hindsight we have recently, it has the potential to provide a good place for different sorts of community events. Specifically, reference is made in the report to the fact of how it was first created as a youth club. And I think there is a lot of potential for that to continue, not in competition with the new Keystone, and certainly not in a replacement of it. So, and I declare my interest as Secretary and Treasurer of the current Keystone Centre. There were many years when Keystone and Project 82 operated quite happily side by side, and both were well attended. I think specifically, and this is opening up a bigger question that other committees might need to take on if it's something the council wishes to, it is that there is a gap in youth services in this town at the moment for unstructured youth work, which is a difference to what Arran Youth Projects provide. They provide a very useful and a very strong set of structured youth work, whereas there is something, and this is not just me saying this, I speak to young people regularly given my job, and one of the things that I often talk about with them is what would you like to be able to do in the evening? And one of the things they often say is they just want somewhere to go and be safe, not somewhere to do activities, not something to do like that, just somewhere to go, listen to music, play some pool, play some video games. And it has the potential, given where we are with things like antisocial behaviour, to make a difference. And I think that this building has the potential to do that. I'm not saying we should, but I think we need to look at the possibilities before we declare a surplus to requirements, because that is, as I've said, a very big step that is irreversible if we start selling it. So I would simply prefer, and if anyone else is willing to support this, what I would like to suggest is that actually we spend some time looking at the options, because there are options here. I'm not saying the council should run it, but probably better options in terms of, is there a charity or an emerging charity that could utilise this building and take it off our hands, or leave from us a kind of substantive lease? As the report Mr. Mayor mentions in the financial section, that we're currently spending £9,425. If there is someone out there, or a group out there, or a charity out there who would be willing to take the building on, we could alleviate a lot of those costs. So I just have a problem of declaring it surplus to requirements. As I said, I don't have a problem with getting a valuation, but I think if we're getting a valuation, we should also put in what other options there are. How much would it cost to bring it back into use? So it mentions about repairs, and I know that as a council we've previously decided not to invest. Maybe that was a mistake because it is looking quite run down. But I would like a broken down, like, comprehensive discussion or paper that tells us what would it cost to bring it back in. What would we get if we sell it? Because I think we need to remember that if we sell it, it will be a capital receipt. It's not just going to be money in the coffers. So we would need to think about what we're going to do with that. And I know we've got like North Littlehampton coming online, but I have reservations, Mr. Mayor, and I'm happy to listen to what other people have to say. But for me to declare it surplus to requirement seems we've taken a very big step very quickly when we haven't, as far as I'm aware, had an open and honest discussion about what this building could be and not just what it is. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, could I quickly just interject? I'd like to support Councillor Tandy's recommendation, please, or proposal, whichever the case it may come under, but I'd like to support that, please.
Thank you, Councillor Buckland. Councillor Blanchard-Cooper.
No.
No,
I'd remove that, Mr. Mayor, but thank you.
Councillor North East.
If I may, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I think that's a proposition that's been put forward there and seconded. So if members would like to take that, the proposal is that options be investigated regarding the building, and a report brought back to the Property and Personnel Committee in the first instance before any moves are taken to declare the property surplus to requirements. Unless I've misunderstood, I think that's a proposition.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that summaриses my proposition perfectly.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you're happy to move to a vote on that, Mr. Mayor.
No, we want to discuss it.
Okay. Over to you, Mr. Mayor, for further discussion.
Thank you. Councillor North East.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with everything that Freddie has said. I think he's absolutely right, and I do find it very sad that we've used those terms, surplus to requirements. If we go back to the reasoning behind Project 82, why it was first built, and that is that we felt there was a gap in the young people's market in terms of there were teenagers that wouldn't necessarily go to a youth club, but they still wanted somewhere safe to go, and all that we were offering them really was the pubs. And we wanted to try and break that cycle, that when they got to 16, 17, the only thing they had to do was to go to a pub. So Project 82 was formed, and it was, as Freddie said, a safe place for them to go without getting into trouble. And they were quite strict. There was no alcohol, certainly no drugs, but a lot of people were using it. And I just think that what we haven't done, we haven't looked at the problem now as it's affecting us now. There are still groups of teenagers that have got nothing else to do in the town. They've outgrown the youth clubs, they've outgrown the youth facilities, and but they still want somewhere to go. The other thing as well with this, we don't know what the community are going to require post-COVID. We know now that a lot of people are looking to use the community to get through this pandemic, and I think after it they will want to use community facilities even more. And I think that building lends itself to where it is, where it's located, to be in a prime position to do that sort of thing. Even to the extent of housing something like a credit union, or even other facilities that the community need, but for usage during the day. And that was one thing we failed on, and that was marketing it properly to get it use its full potential. So, Mr. Mayor, I support this recommendation that's been proposed, and I certainly don't want to see us say that Project 82 is surplus to requirements, because I feel quite strongly that it isn't, and in the near future it won't be. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor North East. I now have Councillor Dr. Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's extraordinary how something like this comes up at the last minute. I would ask members to look at paragraph 3.3 and 3.4, where it says I'm going to read it. The council has previously decided not to invest in major repairs and to simply keep the building safe. Extensive, and you can also write in there expensive, works would be required to address a range of issues, most notably the roof. In the light of this, the council initially agreed to retain the building until the new Keystone facility is in place. This policy was later amended by the council, this same council, to disposal as soon as practicable, as the council is incurring significant costs to simply retain an empty building that would not attract long-term hiring at a rate that would get near to covering its costs. Then it goes on to explain about the new Keystone Centre, which will have state-of-the-art facilities, including quiet rooms for young people to go and just chill out, I think is the expression, rather than having to take part in organised activities. And then if you go on to paragraph 3.4, it talks again there. It's clearly been the view and policy of the council that the building was being replaced and would not be that the building was being replaced and would be disposed of at that point, and it's a relatively low value. Chairman, we're also shortly going to be building, I know it's some further distance away, another new youth facility in the North Littlehampton area. We're going to have two in that area. There has been no evidence of anybody wanting to run one there. Arran Youth Works hasn't come to us and said, can they run something there? They are pleased, we are pleased with the way they are performing. And I think this is sort of hankering after a better yesterday and making up for things that we haven't done in the past. We're providing a super new facility at Keystone Centre in partnership with Aaron. We're with the developers going to produce a new youth centre in North Littlehampton. And I just don't believe that there is this requirement to spend a lot of money, and we've got no estimate of that. But it is going to be a lot. We know how much new roofs and all the other works that need to be done there would would cost. So I would ask the council to stick to our existing policy and to accept the recommendation that we do declare the surplus to requirements and dispose of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dr. Walsh. I now have Councillor Emily Seeks.
Hello, I just wanted to suggest an alternative. The Southfields Centre is not used to capacity. It wasn't used to capacity pre-COVID and is sitting there unused. It would make more sense, because that building is in such a shocking state, to sort of spread out our youth services a bit across the town, because there's not much over the other side. So maybe if that building is in such a state of disrepair that it's going to cost us a fortune to get it right, that might be another option, is to really look at what we're doing with the Southfields Centre, because that's always worried me that we don't have a lot of capacity there. And some of the classes that run from there could run from the new Wave Centre. So that might be another option.
Can I just, through you, Mr. Mayor, clarify?
So I've got Councillor Blanchard Cooper. Do you want to let him go and then? Yeah, sure.
If that's okay, Mr. Mayor, just to confirm that the youth service do run at Southfields Jubilee Centre, so they have a session on Tuesday evenings. They are currently not operating due to COVID, but they are looking at plans to come back. So I just want to confirm that we do run. So yeah, we do run youth facilities.
Put in pool tables and things and have more evenings of the week if there was interest in doing that. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Blanchard Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think James is right in this. This has gone through in the past. It has been agreed that this is the way forward, and I support the recommendation with this. When I first came on the council, what, 5.5 years ago, like all councillors would, we had a tour of all the different sites and amenities that we have. And those 5 years ago, I remember feeling absolutely shocked and appalled at the state then that the council had allowed that building to get into. Frankly, it was an embarrassment and a disgrace. And the fact that we had people, and I say people using it, it was a very small group using it at that stage. And I've been back. I was always shocked when I'd go and visit the one group, which was 50 Up Club at the time, when they was using it, because of the state of the place. It was unsuitable. I did not like them using it, but all the time they felt that that was their home as a group. I wanted to make sure that they transitioned in the best possible way. Even they have done that now. They are now at the Wick Hall. Even they have admitted that that was an improvement for them. The Project 82 was cold, it's damp, it was just not suitable to be used. We have got lots of different facilities in the area. Wick Hall being one of them, the Keystone Centre, which is going to be a great new facility. I never remember the name of the one down Clun Road. If someone can remind me, it'd be brilliant. No, it's gone out of my head.
That's the Whitbourne Centre, Chair.
That's the one, thank you. And obviously, as Councillor Seeks said, we've got Southfields, and you know, we do a lot of great work out of these, as well as there's lots of different other halls and such that are used. I think the comment made about we don't know where we're going to be coming out of COVID and what things are going to be asked for, I think is actually a very pertinent one, in as much as, again, I do not see that Project 82 would be suitable. I know certainly the different groups and organisations that I'm involved in are all having a similar trend, that what they want is to have larger halls and venues so that people feel safe to be able to be spread out. And I think that is going to be one of the keys, is that people and groups are going to want places where you can, if needed, still socially distance. This is why a lot of venues that are smaller don't work. Project 82, it was a great thing when it came about, and I think the administration that put it there was brilliant. I think it was then, like, certain things have been let down in the past, but I do think we have got a way forward here. And I would hope to see it. I would love to see the building reused by a developer who would have that know-how and capital to put into it to bring it back to life, maybe as either something for business or potentially as housing, which is much needed. But certainly I do feel that this project has gone through, and to delay it would just be another case of where people see councils as going round in circles, not achieving. This has been on the table for quite some time, as you can see by the papers, and that is what councils are often accused of, is not getting on and dealing with it. If you look at the toilets in Wick, which I'll declare an interest as a member of Arran District Council, I have been on to ADC about the toilets in Wick. They have sat there unused for years. Let's not have Project 82 as another example of a council owning a site that could be facilitated in some different way by being sold off. Let's actually support what we have here as a recommendation, actually grab it and go, we have already had this go through the process, we are not going to delay it any further, and let's move forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blanchard-Cooper. Councillor Mike North East, I'll come back to you quickly.
Yes, Chairman, it's just quickly to correct a misconception. Councillor Walsh said we've waited right up to now to say anything. That is just simply not true. I can't remember how many times Tony got up and spoke about this at committee and at full council, saying that it shouldn't happen. And I think it's so sad to actually point to the fact that the building got into such a state. We were the owners, we were the landlords, for goodness sake. We shouldn't have let it get in that state. So, you know, we can't use that as an excuse. It got in a state. That was our fault. Put it right.
Thank you, Councillor North East. Julia?
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. If there are no further representations, are members happy to go to a vote on the proposition that was made by Councillor Tandy? That was also...
Can I have a recorded vote, please?
That's absolutely fine, Chair. We can do that. If I just recap on the proposition, and then we'll go to a vote if the Deputy Town Clerk is okay to call a register of those present, and we'll take that vote. So the proposition is that further options regarding use of the Project 82 building be explored, and that information be brought to the Property and Personnel Committee for consideration before any further action is taken to declare the premises surplus to requirements. Are members happy with that?
Was it not to include that we had the district valuer as well?
That's who you appoint after you've declared it surplus to requirements.
Can we not do both? Have it a report and for district valuer at the same time, so we can consider if it was to go in that direction, so it could be when it comes back to property and personnel that it's all considered?
It's not necessarily the district, it's not necessarily the valuer that makes that decision. You're asking officers to go away and explore these options that have been discussed at committee and then declare it surplus to requirements. It's at that point that the district councillor is engaged.
Yes.
The district valuer is engaged.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the research needs to come before that.
Okay, very quickly, Councillor North East.
Just to say, Chairman, it's up to the proposer and seconder of the motion or resolution to decide the wording of the motion.
Exactly.
Or whatever, Chairman.
Sorry.
I was going to make the same point.
Councillor Tandy?
So we're going to a vote.
I'm assuming we're going to a vote now, Chair. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so are we clear what we're voting on then?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so I will read the names through in alphabetical order. Councillor Blanchard Cooper.
Against.
Councillor Buckland.
For.
Councillor Chase.
For.
Councillor Long.
Against.
Councillor North East.
You're muted, Councillor North East.
Sorry. 4.
Councillor Seeks.
Against.
Councillor Tandy.
For.
And Councillor Dr. Walsh.
Against.
Thank you, members. That's 4 votes on equal. So in this event, it's down to the mayor as chair of the council. You have the casting vote.
Right. I've got a question. Am I allowed to ask the Deputy Town Clerk a question?
Not in the middle of a vote.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Dr. Walsh. Just obviously. Yeah, I'll stick with my decision 4.
Thank you. That's 5-4. The motion is carried.
Thank you. Now, moving on to item 10, reports of representatives on outside bodies. Can I invite members to report on any business relating to their outside bodies as the elected representative of Town Council?
There are none, Chair.
Thank you. Exempt business, exempt minutes, CRC 23rd of July 2020. The only item of exempt business for this committee to approve the exempt business minutes of the Community Resources meeting held on the 23rd of July 2020. However, if members are happy that these are an accurate record and can be approved without discussion, the committee does not need to formally move to exempt business. I therefore propose that they are approved and arrangements to be made for them to be signed at a later date. Is everyone happy with this?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed, Chairman.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Thank you, Councillor Dr. Walsh. This meeting is now finished at 19:32, and I would like to thank all the staff for their support throughout the meeting and to members of the public for their patience, and for everyone attending tonight. Thank you.
Bye.